This is video 2 of Tell Me More. We have looked at the given information and we have also looked at the first required. So to answer the first required, which was to identify the performance obligations in the TEL 1010 plus contract, we need to go to IFRS 15 and to the paragraphs dealing with performance obligations. So the first paragraph we are having a look at is paragraph 22, which says, at contract inception, an entity shall assess the goods or services promised in a contract with the customer and shall identify as a performance obligation each promise to transfer to the customer either, so it doesn't need to comply with both, it's either, so there's an or, either what? A good or service that is distinct or a series of distinct goods or services that are substantially the same and that have the same pattern of transfer. So the first word that I saw is this word distinct. What does distinct mean? Well, that is explained later on in paragraph 27. So you need to explain what is distinct. Are the goods or services distinct? Unless in the note we specifically said do not do that. So if we look at number B, it talks about a series of distinct, which we will need to define what is distinct, but in this case a series of distinct goods or services that are substantially the same and that have the same pattern of transfer, which then refers you to paragraph 23. So now you need to go and discuss paragraph 23, unless it is very specifically excluded in the note part of the question. So a series of distinct goods and services has the same pattern of transfer if both of the following criteria are met. So there's an and because there's two criteria. So what are these two criteria? Each distinct good or service in the series that the entity promises to transfer to the customer would meet the criteria in paragraph 35 to be a performance obligation satisfied over time. And in accordance with paragraph 39 to 40, the same method would be used to measure the entity's progress towards complete satisfaction of the performance obligation. So now we are referred to paragraph 39 and paragraph 40. So now we need to go and address paragraph 39 and 40 unless it is specifically excluded in the required. So what is paragraph 39? For each performance obligation satisfied over time, and we will discuss this satisfy over time in a further step, an entity shall recognize revenue over time by measuring the progress towards complete satisfaction of that performance obligation. An entity shall apply a single method of measuring that progress for each performance obligation satisfied over time, and shall apply that method consistently to similar performance obligations and in similar circumstances. So now we are still only busy with the theory in each of the paragraphs, because each of the paragraphs again refer to other paragraphs. So we have done paragraph 22, 23, 39, 40. Now we need to go and look at distinct. So paragraph 27 says, a good or service that is promised to a customer is distinct if both of the following criteria are met. So there's an and, there's more than one, both need to be met. What are these criteria? The customer can benefit from the goods or services either on its own or together with other resources that are readily available, and the entity's promise to transfer the goods or service to the customer is separately identifiable from other promises in the contract. So now these two criteria refer us to paragraph 28 and paragraph 29. So now we need to go and discuss those two paragraphs unless they are specifically excluded in the required. So if we now have a look at paragraph 28, it says, a customer can benefit from a goods or service in accordance with paragraph 27a, that's the one that referred us here, if the good or service can be used, consumed, sold for an amount that is greater than scrap value or otherwise held in a way that generates economic benefits. For some goods or services, a customer may be able to benefit from that good or service on its own. For others, they may be able to benefit only in conjunction with other readily available resources. Now, what is a readily available resource? It is a good or service that is sold separately by the specific entity that we are busy with or anybody else, or a resource that the customer has already obtained from the entity or from other transactions or events. So in this specific question, if we now apply a bit of the theory, the router can be used with any internet service provider. The router is sold separately without having to enter into a data contract, and the internet service can be used with any router. So the customer might have gotten a router from a different provider, okay? Because there are packages from TellMeMore that exclude the router. Paragraph 29 is about assessing whether an entity's promise to transfer goods or services to the customer is separately identifiable. And the paragraph actually says factors that indicate that two or more promises to a customer are not separately identifiable include the following. The entity provides a significant service of integrating the goods or services. One or more of the goods or service significantly modifies or customizes the other. The goods or services are highly interdependent and highly interrelated. Then they are not separately identifiable. If we apply that to the question, there is no integration of the goods or services. The router and the internet services do not modify or customize each other. They are not highly interdependent. They are not highly interrelated. The router does not significantly affect the customer's ability to use and benefit from the internet service because the router can be obtained from any other provider. So in this question, we reach the conclusion that there are two performance obligations in the contract, namely the router and the internet service. They are each distinct. The router is a good, it's a distinct good. The internet service is a series of distinct services. Why? Because they are identical. Every month is the same. It's over a 12-month period. And to determine the progress towards complete satisfaction of this specific performance obligation of the internet services, you can have a look at the number of months. Because you know it's a 12-month period. How many of the 12 months have already happened? So the question was identify the performance obligations in this question. The conclusion is there are two performance obligations.